when I saw my panelist colleagues there and I saw their scientific reputation, I thought, I'm going to talk about something else. I'm going to talk about international cooperation this time. Thank you very much. A few months ago, we had a symposium in ISU, and there was a general, and I want to stress that, there was a general talking, and he made a very bold statement. He says, if the International Space Station would have existed a century ago, we wouldn't have 2 world wars. It's a bold statement, I know, but I want to start with it just to draw the attention. It's maybe a little bit exaggerated, but not that far, in my opinion. I mean, space has always been used by the politicians as a sort of test bed if you could cooperate. It started already in 1975. Here you see the picture. And I also like the 2 sides of the picture. I could also put a 3rd side on it, but that's another one. The politicians decided to do this famous docking between an American spacecraft, Apollo, and Soyuz. Now, on the one side of the picture, you see an official picture taken of the crew before the start. What do you see? Interesting, both of them in different suits. Already, you see the distance, you see how they are maybe not mistrusting, but at least they were not 100% friends. Look a few years afterwards, the first thing that you see, they lost a lot of hair. But what you also see is these people were friends. And this is very symptomatic of space. The mistrust turns into a sort of friendship. As the chairman of the panel correctly said, I was involved a lot in the Euromir missions, which were missions in the beginning of the 90s. At the same time, my American colleagues were there, and they were having first flights with the Russians in preparation of the International Space Station. And I've seen the same thing, the sort of mistrust in the beginning, which turned into a sort of confidence and saying, well, the other ones also are clever. They also know a lot. Once people started talking the universal language, mathematics and scientific, they started to understand that these Russian engineers were quite clever. Now, I'm not hiding the fact that this sort of cooperation is enormously facilitated with a bottle of vodka. But nevertheless, the fact remains, people started to understand each other. And this political aspect has been always used. Do not forget, the International Space Station, what we call now the International Space Station, was an American space station in 1984. And only in 1988, the Americans were involving their partners. And in 1994, they involved the Russians. So you see this sort of testing, test bed type of thing, what we always use the space for. This continues at the moment, and there I'm a little bit going to have maybe a bit of conflict of what my predecessor Rodette said, because I'm going to use statistics. We have a sort of cooperation, although I would say cooperation in a light way. Do not forget, 2/3 of the world expenditure, higher than is America. So we have cooperation which I would rather call coordination. We say international, but we're forgetting a lot of partners. We're forgetting China, we're forgetting India. So a few years ago, I did an attempt, which is, I was already killed before it started by Odette. I used statistics, but still, if I can have the next slide, please. No, I cannot. Oh, I have to do it myself? Oh, no, this one. It was 2008, but not so much changed. No, the previous one. Yeah. In 2008, as you see, the United States of America, and still now, are something like 66%. 2/3 of the budget is America. So it's relatively logic that they are leading. If you extrapolate that to 2030, I can also give you the extrapolation to 2050, but then I make a complete fool of myself. So let me make half a fool of myself here. To 2030, you will see, if I make it in groups, the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, I put them together because one can go harder than the other ones, you never know. You see the BRIC countries taking quite a lot of the percentage of the space exploration, taken from mainly Europe and Canada, Japan. USA will still remain very far. I am putting something on it here, which is relatively new in economic terms. It is the N11. Anybody heard about the N11? No? That's a new economic concept. It's the next 11 countries. So it's not a vested space powers like Israel and so. It is already a number of countries that economists think that will be very important after the BRIC countries. So there are countries which you would say now, oh, what are they doing there? The Philippines, Mexico, but people think that they are going to develop. Now this picture is not even complete, because we are talking about real money, but we're not talking about purchasing power. If I take my 2008 picture, if I can have the next slide. Yeah? If I can have the 2008 picture, I'm going to express the money spent on space in terms of purchasing power, and that's completely different. I have a lot of Chinese students every year, so I know the Chinese very well. If they have to do a technical orbital control system or a thermal control system, they are as good as the European and as the American engineers, believe me. The only difference is afterwards they will earn $700 or $800. And I cannot have the European engineer or the American engineer working for $700, $800, not even a professor, by the way. So if you would now, but that becomes complete nonsense, but still, if you would now extrapolate the purchasing power to 2030, you will see that in 20 years, the BRIC countries, for instance, will probably prevail economically in purchasing power over America. So this is the sort of things that we cannot ignore. So what will happen? Let's now go a little bit to the future. Future cooperation, we cannot do it without India and China. That is clear. We will have to involve them. They will become a serious power. At the last symposium in ISU, the Chinese made a statement that their station will be ready in 2020. By coincidence, that's just the time that the International Space Station is ending its lifetime, but probably a coincidence. Inviting all the friendly nations. But is this a solution? I probably don't think so. We were talking, the previous speakers were talking about exploration. Yes, exploration will be very, very expensive. That I'm going to also go in conflict with Janis a little bit, who used the term, and I know you were going to use colonization. There's one aspect that we should not forget. If we go to Mars, we will not do the classical colonization. When the people went from here to Australia, or they went to America, yes, they went far away, and maybe they didn't come back. But they had the same atmospheric conditions. If the people are going from here to Mars, they will have a completely different environment. They will have less gravity, and here's the big key, less gravity. So you don't have to be 100% a physiologist to know that 2 or 3 generations of babies afterwards will be completely different. They will have modified. Their skeleton will have modified. Their muscles will have modified. Their neurovestibular system will have modified. Cardiovascular system will have modified. They cannot simply come back without having them protected by, I don't know which artificial thing, because the muscles will not be strong enough anymore. So, if people will go to Mars, it will be another society. It will not be another colony. And here is what some people think that we should think of. We had competition, we went from competition to cooperation. Maybe we have to go to the third step, is inspiration. Are we going to use this possibility to make a better society? Are we going to bring all our mystics with us to Mars? Or are we saying, no, tabula rasa, we make a better society there? And that is a little bit the theme which I wanted to bring here on the table.